Hey everybody, welcome to Life on Turkey Lane. I'm so glad you're here. Today I have a simple little sewing project to share with you. I have two small windows in the kitchen that I've been needing to make some valances for, and I thought I would bring you along. So enjoy! Okay, if you would like to follow along, there's a couple things you're going to need. Of course, you'll need your sewing machine, and you can see mine back there. You will need your fabric of whatever pattern that you like. You will need a measuring tape. I had to pull mine from the garage. I couldn't find the sewing one. You will need some small ribbon. I think this is a little bit less than a 1/2 inch, and possibly you will need some 1/2 inch elastic. I haven't decided which direction I'm going to go when I get to that part, so I bought both. And if you're doing making valances for a specific window, you will need to measure that window and get yourself a tension rod that is the right size. And I got mine from Walmart for under $3. They're relatively cheap, so this is pretty much an inexpensive project. Okay, so I'm going to go take some measurements. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and done all my measurements, and I've cut my fabric, and now we're going to get to sewing. Now my sewing projects, when I do things around the house, are really simple. I don't line my curtains and my valances like maybe a professional seamstress would. In this situation though, I really don't need I don't have any issues with privacy or anything, so I don't need to make sure that the curtains are lined or that they go down all the way to the bottom of the window and different things like that. So I'm just making simple valances, and what I usually do is take my fabric, and normally I would iron a seam into it before I sew, but this is a really small project, and so there's no point in getting out the iron and ironing board. This fabric is really easy to work with. So what I usually do is I make a 1/2 inch seam, but it takes 1 inch of fabric. You're going to fold the fabric over by 1/2 inch and then by 1/2 inch again, and then you're going to sew that seam. Let me aim you down at the sewing machine. See if we can get you in view there. So I've done that with this, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Make sure that you've got your thread in the machine and your bobbin threaded. I'm using, even though this is black and white, I'm using white thread because the white seam looks better on black than it would for black to be on the white seam, if that makes any sense. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I've got mine lined up. And then I'm going to go ahead and back up. After I've made a few stitches, I'm going to back up and then go forward again. That will lock my stitch in place so that it doesn't ravel. And I'm going to go ahead and sew this seam. It goes relatively quick. I go ahead and make sure I have a 1/2 inch seam going down the whole length of the fabric. When you're using a checked fabric like this, it makes it really easy to keep your lined up the way it's supposed to be. And you just, like some caught there. And you just, see the sewing machine has lines on the little thing on your plate here that will help you keep your stitch straight. Okay, now when I get to the end of that, I go ahead and stop that, and I'm going to go now to the other side, and I'm going to start again doing a 1/2 inch and another 1/2 inch. I always start with my needle down in the fabric so it doesn't jump around or whatever. I'm going to do the same thing again, and I'm going to sew a few stitches and then back up just a bit to lock the stitches in place. So we made it through that seam. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew across the bottom. That's going to give me my straight line across the bottom. Let me get my scissors and cut some of these strings off. And we're going to do the same thing across the bottom. We're just going to do a 1/2 inch and then a 1/2 inch again seam. And like I said, the easy part about using buffalo check is you can relatively eyeball your seam and know that you're in the right spot. And like I said, normally I would go ahead and get out the ironing board and iron and do this for you the right way. I just thought you'd like to come along and see the basic steps to making a valance, a small valances. Now, if I was doing something really long for a large window, I would definitely get out the ironing board and make sure that everything was going right before starting on that project, because you want to make sure it looks right. Okay. Now for the top seam, and I'm going to go ahead and use the jagged part for the top seam because it'll be much easier that way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this over about 1 inch, and then I'm going to fold it over another about 2 inches. So that I have, and I'm going to have to sew it in 2 places. Well, actually, I really only have to sew this one in 1 place because I am not doing a ruffle at the top. So, and I'm going to, since I have a white thread and white bobbin, I'm going to go ahead and just turn this over and sew it from the back side, just right here. And I'm going to go all the way across the top, again backing up just a slight bit. I just want there to be enough room, which actually there's probably going to be more than enough room there. I want there to be enough room for my rod to go through there. It's just a basic straight stitch. I'm not doing any kind of fancy stitches here. Just your ever so basic straight stitch. If you notice, I've made sure that all of my squares, can you see all the squares? Even though this is like only a half square, it's lined up where it's not like where you have a half of it in one side of the next square and the other side. So it's making sure that everything is pretty much lined up. Okay. So now I could, because my tension rod is small, so I could go back and I might go ahead and do that. I might make it where I can make a ruffle, a little bit of a ruffle on top, because I think that looks nice. So, and this doesn't take very long at all. You don't have to worry about the seam coming apart or anything like that. You're just sewing just another strip here that will be like a ruffle on top of your valance. Okay, and so pretty much this valance is done. All we have to do now is I've decided to go ahead and put some ribbon and on there. I'm going to cut off some of these strings just a bit. Okay, now I'm going to get 2 pieces of ribbon here. Now this is kind of, right now this valance could be done. And I could hang it over the window and it would be just fine. But I'm going to do a little decorative thing to mine. That is if I can get this ribbon open. And I don't want this video to get too awfully long. Well, my goodness. Where's my scissors? Don't want to cut the... Here we go. Phew. I was beginning to wonder if I was going to get that open. You ever notice that stores make things so hard to get into? They're afraid people's going to steal it, so they make it so hard to get into that even a burglar couldn't get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my pieces of ribbon about twice as long as my thing here. And then I'm going to add probably about 3 inches to it. Or, yeah, about, let's see, we'll go about 3. Okay. And I'm going to cut 2 of them this size, okay? And I probably maybe should have cut this when I was doing before I did my seams, and I could have just sewed it in then, but it doesn't matter. We're just going to add it in right now. Okay. So, now I'm going to kind of get this in half here. And I'm going to put it on mine about right here. Yeah, about right there. That's about 5 inches from the side. So I'm going to take mine and I'm going to slip it on right there. And I'm just going to take this, make sure it stays straight, and I'm just going to put a little seam just right there. hold it on. Okay. And now I'm going to go back in at a place where I made that seam. I'm going to make sure make sure it's in the right spot there and that we're all held together. Okay, this is kind of difficult because you can't see the other side. And I'm just going to go right along with the seam there. See, the other side got caught, so we're good. Okay. Doing it this way just means you got a little few extra threads to cut off, which is no big deal. Now see, for this, a professional would have changed it over to black thread. Okay, I'm going to do that to the other curtains, and I will be right back and we'll show you how to install them. Okay, so both of the little Valances are done. I want to show you kind of up close the seams. If you can see my stitching there. And this is the back side. So like I said, I've made like a 1/2 inch seam, and then here's the top side. I made 2 seams, one at about a 1/2 inch from the top and one at about 3 inches from the top. That's so I have a pocket in there for the rod to slip through. Okay, and then for the pieces of ribbon that I put on it, that looks like that, and it's like that on both sides. It's just holding the ribbon in place. You can see, and you'll see when I hang this curtain, I'm going to show you how to hang it. You'll see what that does. Okay, so let's we got to slip the rod in through the pocket here. That's why you don't want to sew anywhere in between those 2 seams, because then your rod will not slip through the pocket and you won't be able to hang your curtain. I did not leave this long enough to make very much of a ruffle. Normally I would make like a thick ruffle like this. This is going to be very sparse. It will not hardly have much of a ruffle at all, which is okay. It'll be plenty. So I've got my ladder in here. I'm going to try to, you're pretty much positioned at the window, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it kind of like that and just do some work here. I think I will probably need the ladder to at least get the Valance up at the top of the window, because I'm kind of short here. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I've already got my tension rod pretty much where I want it as far as the size it needs to be. Okay, and like I said, this is not going to gather up very much at all. Just a little bit of gathering here in the center. I'm just going to kind of even it all out there. And now for the strings, what I'm going to do is kind of pucker the fabric up just ever so slightly. And I'm going to tie the string just one loop here, and I'm gonna make it go up as high as I want it to go up, okay? And I'm gonna do the same on this side. I'm just gonna pucker the fabric or pleat the fabric just a little bit, and I'm going to go up about as high as I want it to go and stop it, and then I'm gonna make a knot. I'm going to tie a knot right there just by tying it one more time to make a knot where I want it to be pleated. So this is real easy to hang. It's real easy to do. This was not a hard project at all. There you go. That's a valance, and I'm going to cut these strings down just a little bit, and that's it. We're done. That's a wonderful, easy project to do. I'm going to slide that up just a little bit so it covers that gap up there just some. All right, well, I thank you for joining me today. I'm sorry if the video got a little long or distracting or anything like that, but I'm glad you were here with me. And if you like this video, if you'd like to see more of these types of things, I'm hoping that I get better at kind of being a teacher. And I do have a new tripod that I've ordered, one that is specific for cell phones. The tripod I'm using is not for cell phones, and that's why I'm having such difficulty doing these videos, but they will get better. So, but anyway, if you like this video and you would like to see more of these types of videos, let me know, give me a comment. If you enjoy my cooking videos, let me know that too. Like and subscribe to the channel, and have a really good day.